New Mexico is a land of stories, myths, and legends. The unexplained and the unexplored. I'm Chad Brummett, and we are exploring the unique and unusual world of New Mexico Strange.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on this episode of New Mexico Strange. I'm Chad Brummett. So, sharing a little bit about myself at just the beginning of this. When I was a kid, aside from being into paranormal and crazy things like that, I was really into the Titanic. I was fascinated by the Titanic. This was well before the movie came out, well before the movie came out. And I think what it was is that Robert Ballard had discovered it in 1985. I was 8 years old at the time. And, hearing all of these crazy stories about the Titanic, one of the things that struck me was the idea that a number of people before the Titanic set sail had dreams that something bad was going to happen. Some people reportedly changed their itineraries, decided not to go on the Titanic. And of course, history unfolded. As we all know, the Titanic sank. But the fact that people were having dreams or premonitions that something bad was going to happen is not unique to the Titanic. It's also not unique to things like 9/11. We fortunately have someone with us today that actually had one of those prophetic dreams about 9/11, Darla VanWinkle, whom you might recognize from one of our previous episodes. So Darla, first of all, thank you for coming back in to share this experience.
Happy to be here.
Before we get into this dream that, and you weren't the only one that had this in your circle. We'll talk about that in a second. That also was not the first time you had some sort of dream of premonition or foretelling something, and it actually had a very personal connection. So tell us a little bit about this instance of prophecy that you had in dreams.
Well, when I was 20, I was in college at the College of Santa Fe. I was living in the dorms there, and at that time in my life, I had been documenting my dreams for years. Not necessarily every day. I know there's this notion that we dream every day. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'll have moments where my dreams are very vivid for periods, and I'll have times where I don't recall dreams for a bit. But I've been in the habit of documenting my dreams for years. And I had written down in my dream journal that basically that I was going to meet my husband. I said, and I met the love of my life. He's tall, has dark hair, and he loves me more than anything. And then the next day, I didn't meet him the next day, but I heard him. I was an RA of a hallway, and one of my residents was playing a tape of music in his room for me and a few of my friends. And the song he was playing was so familiar. It really wasn't familiar, but it sounded familiar. I felt like I had heard it before. And he said, "Oh, that's my band." And I said, "That is not your band. I don't believe it." He said, "No, really, that's my friend Jason." And I said, "Oh, he sounds sexy." And so my friend went and got a photo and showed it to me. And I instantly recognized him from my dream.
Really?
I did. I instantly recognized him from my dream. And so the next day, this friend had arranged for Jason and I to meet. Mm-hmm. He'd arranged it for me to walk into Jason's room when he was in there. And when I saw him, I couldn't even talk. I was just absolutely it was a flash of lightning. I couldn't even talk.
Wow.
So it wasn't even love at first sight. It was love at first sound.
Yeah.
Backed up by love at first sight.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people could say, well, you maybe had that. Of course, everyone sort of has that. You seem to have physical proof that there was some kind of connection between the two of you.
I do.
I mean, it is literally inked on your body.
It is. When I was 18, before I had even moved to Santa Fe, I'm from Alamogordo, I went to a tattoo shop in Alamogordo. I think there was only one at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had this little symbol tattooed right here. It's a Celtic cross with a dot up in the right corner. Mm-hmm. I don't even know the significance of the dot, but in my head, the dot was important. And as I'd been journaling my dreams, when I would finish a dream, I would draw this symbol to show that I'm done documenting that dream. And I'm an artist as well. And when I would finish a painting, this was my signature. Instead of writing my name, I would draw this symbol with a dot to signify I am done with this art piece. Then when I heard Jason's music, and I didn't believe that it was, my friend handed me a tape, and this is a 4-track tape. It's a process where you can record it at tape 4 times. You can record the guitar, record the drums, record the vocals. You get 4 passes, and the tape is full. Turns out that when Jason would be finished with all 4 tracks, he would draw a symbol to indicate that he was done with that process, and the symbol is exactly the same as my tattoo. I lived in Alamogordo. This was years. I got this years before I met him.
Yeah.
And he had been also making the same symbol for years on his music before he met me.
Wow.
And it's the dots in the exact same spot.
Yeah. I mean, just looking at it, I mean, it's one thing, you could say, well, someone doing a Celtic cross, a cross with a circle through it, but the cross, the circle through it, and the dot on the
dot.
upper right side.
And we both used it to signify that we were completed with whatever creative process that we were doing.
It's just absolutely mind-blowing that happened.
And now fast forward, we've been married for 23 years. We've been together for 25 years.
Congratulations on all of that. And you also are recording artists.
Yes, we do. I joined the band.
There you go, as you should.
I have a background in music as well. I grew up playing the piano and the violin and the viola. And so it was a natural progression for me to start creating music with Jason as well.
Yeah. It's just absolutely fascinating. Kind of sends shivers down your spine.
It just, some loves are meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations again on the longevity. Aside from that instance, and obviously we'll talk about the 9/11 dream that you had here in just a moment. Have you had prophetic dreams before? Have you had moments where you have this and then something finds its way into reality?
Yes.
You have? Okay.
Yes. And the most stark one that pops into my mind was about 6 years ago. I was laying in bed, and it was one of the dreams that happens right before you wake up. Or maybe you've already woken up and then you drifted back to sleep. And so it's very, very stark in your head because it just happened. But I was laying in bed, and I had a flash of a car wreck. It was like a bolt of lightning through me. I jumped up, but I saw just a quick flash of a blue car and a white truck, and it was just instant right in front of me, but I was not part of it, and I was not harmed, nor was anybody else harmed. And I didn't know what to do with this information. I didn't even tell Jason. I didn't know what to say about it because I had no idea why I had this, but I definitely had this. And so I tried to not let it inform my day too much. I didn't want to be so paranoid that perhaps I may have caused, you know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't want to cause that to happen.
Right.
I didn't want
it to be a self-fulfilling purpose.
Yes, I didn't want to attract that
Right.
into my reality. So
Right.
I tried to just push it out and just be cautious driving as I always am. So I took my kids to school, got home, and then Jason called me that he had a cancellation at the salon and I could go get my hair done. So I ran over to pick up a coffee for him at a local coffee shop. And what was ironic is I actually should have made the light. The car in front of me wasn't paying attention, and the light did turn green, but they sat there. And I kind of honked my horn just a smidge.
Sure.
And by the time they went, there wasn't time for me to go.
Sure.
So I was now the first car in line at the red light. And as I'm sitting there, I see a blue car go to turn around me. And I made eye contact with that driver. He saw me, I saw him. He was waiting for his moment to come forward. The light turned yellow, and he decided to go right as a white truck ran the red light.
Wow.
And this truck hit this car so hard that the whole front of the car was removed. Just
Wow.
knocked the front of the car off. The car spun. It spun so close to me that it sprayed fluid on my car.
Really?
And then my light turned green. And so I could see that nobody was harmed.
Yeah.
And I just went ahead and went on my way.
Yeah. Wow. And it very well, I mean, it had, again, all of these specific moments, had that guy not waited, had, in front of you, had
Yes.
just all of these
It
perfect
all
things
played
lining
perfectly
up.
for me to be a witness to the same flash I had in my head just a few hours before.
Oh my gosh.
But it's not like I could have done anything with
Right.
this information.
Right.
But the second I saw it starting to play out, I instantly knew that that was what I saw that morning.
Right.
So it was almost, I don't want to say cruel, but to know this information yet not be able to do anything
Right.
to prevent it or to help.
Well, and there are a lot of people too. I mean, again, as we were talking before we started rolling, a lot of people, a lot of critics specifically, that look at prophets like Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, some of these very familiar, seers from the past. They all will say, well, if they are prophets, why are we not using that prophecy to prevent disaster? And, some proponents of it will say that's really not how it works. You may not be able to know. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily know, or how can you enact this stuff without fully being aware, yes, this car is going to, what could you potentially do? And saying that may not be exactly how prophecy works, that it's something there to prevent disaster, but that somehow we are tapping into a larger collective consciousness that you maybe get a window into the future, is one potential theory. And a lot of people felt that on 9/11. As I started off talking about, there were a lot of, famous stories, whether or not they are true, of the Titanic and people avoiding that disaster. There were similar stories on the morning of 9/11, 2001, of people for some reason not getting on one of the planes, not going
Yes.
to work at the World Trade Center, or, for whatever reason, fate tipped them one way or another. You had a dream, a premonition before 9/11. Tell us about that.
At that time, I was part of a New York arts program through my college. So I was interning with an industrial designer in her loft. Well, I should say prior to 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
So in January to May of 2001, I was living in New York City, and my subway stop was 2 stops before the towers.
Okay.
So I was quite close to that part of town. And I completed my semester, and then I returned to Santa Fe.
Okay.
So on the morning of 9/11, I was very much asleep. And remember, this is before cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a radio in my room. I didn't have a roommate. There was nothing else in the room that could have informed this dream. It was pure silence. So I'm asleep, and I have a dream that I am back in New York City. I'm back in Michelle's loft, and I should say the artist I worked for, her name was Michelle Okadonor, and she lived right there in Soho. Wow. So I was back in Michelle's loft, and we were panicking. We were racing to throw luggage into a car that was waiting for us downstairs.
And this was all in the dream?
In the dream, yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, in the dream. And I remember every detail so vividly. I went to go to the elevator. She said, "Don't use the elevator. The electricity's out. We have to take the stairs." So I'm opening the door to the stairs, and we're running down, throwing everything into this car that was waiting for us, and we are getting out of there. There was no one on the streets. There were no one walking, no other cars. The city was just deserted. And I kept looking back out of the window of this car. And when we finally turned down this road and I could see a clearing, I just saw black smoke coming up from the city and going off to the side from the lower part of Manhattan.
Wow.
And again, I had no idea what was going on. Just in the dream, we had to get out. Something was happening in New York. It was unsafe. We had to get out right away.
Yeah.
And in the dream, it kind of took a turn. We went down some dirt road, and now we're in the forest, and there was
Sure.
a little camper there, and that's where we stayed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I dreamt that, but such is dream world.
Exactly.
I interpret that now as it just showed me that we were safe. It showed me that I was safe and that Michelle was safe. So as I'm sitting in the camper with Michelle, my phone rings in real life. And it was Jason. This is before we're married, of course. It was Jason calling me and saying, "Turn on the TV." He said, "We're under attack. Turn the TV on." So I jumped up, turned my TV on, and there it was, both towers on smoke or on fire. It was smoke coming up, and going off to the side
Right.
exactly in the same way that I saw in my dream.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, they do, if you remember all of those images of 9/11, the smoke wafting off from the north and south towers. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said, did your husband, did someone else also have a
Yes.
similar dream?
Yes.
Okay.
So Jason and I watched together as the towers fell, and just not even saying anything, just being together in that moment and watching as these events unfolded. And then I said, I dreamt this. I had a dream about this. And I told him everything that I just told you. And he said, so did I.
Wow.
He had actually had a pinched nerve in his back, and he was staying at his parents' house that night since he couldn't drive. So he was asleep in his childhood room. Again, no cell phone, nothing else to inform him his dream. And in his dream, he was on the subway going through New York, and there were lots of other people on the subway, so he wasn't alone like I was. But everybody on the subway was silent, and they all had their heads down. And he said he couldn't see anybody's faces, that everyone's face just looked like kind of a black smoke, like kind of a swirl. It was very disturbing. And so he was looking up around at everybody, but nobody was looking up, and they all had this just black swirl over their face.
Yeah.
And then the subway came up and out from underground. And when it did, then he could see New York, and he saw that the lower part of Manhattan was engulfed in smoke and fire. And he could, again, see the big billowing smoke going up and going to the side.
Wow, that is incredible.
And then he was woken up by his dad tapping his arm, saying, son, wake up. We're under attack. Come watch the TV in here.
Wow.
So Jason got up, went, saw what was happening on the TV, and called me.
Called you. Wow. Now, one thing that we had talked about previously, and we both kind of came across this, there was a theory that was sort of circulating around post 9/11, and it had to do with this project, the Global Consciousness Project. And looking at this, and I remember you had seen a separate documentary from something that I had seen, but it both talked about this idea that there is this human consciousness that is connected, that we're all connected in this sort of global consciousness. And theorists on this, they look at random number generators from around the globe. And the way these random number generators work, there is supposed to be zero structure to it. It is random, right? Like there's nothing to it. But they say that on certain days, certain times, certain instances, structure starts to appear in these random number generators. And it sort of spikes in this interest of like global consciousness, that there are things that happen. There are some people that said on the morning of 9/11, as the terrorists were boarding planes, those numbers started to go up, and it started to peak on that day. What's your idea about this theory? Do you think that there is an idea of maybe a global consciousness or something that sort of connects us all together that we can't see, we can't understand, but that it does sort of, it's like the tie that binds humanity?
We are energetic beings. We're made of energy that's been slowed down to be into these bodies. I absolutely think that we're all tied to each other.
Yeah.
And I feel that the random number generator just helps verify that fact. It's just zeros and ones. That's all a random number generator creates, are zeros and ones. And they are all across the world. And for all of them in unison to all of a sudden not be random. I looked it up this morning. The statistics of that happening were it was like 1 in 1 billion for it not to be able to happen unless there was something unifying all of these generators at the same time.
Yeah. Do you think that there is, and it kind of ties in a little bit to our previous conversation, of people being sensitive to paranormal activity, maybe, being able to sensitive to spiritual beings, that the same thing, that there are some people that may just be a little more sensitive to these instances, and maybe that's why they are getting these windows into the future potentially?
I agree. I have no doubt there are others out there who also had dreams about 9/11 perhaps as it was happening, which was the instance in my case and in Jason's case, but maybe before that. I would love for there to be a study on 9/11 dreams and to be able to contribute our stories to that, because I think that would be an interesting topic too.
Yeah. And again, it's you do see that when there are moments of tragedy and there are large instances, looking at this Global Consciousness Project on their website, and it may also be of note that it is hosted through Princeton.edu. So this isn't just some random thing. This is coming through Princeton University that this project at least has some tether to. But they looked at various instances, including coronavirus, the George Floyd murder, and the eruption of all of the protests that came out of that, as well as the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, looking at finding that there were similar structure and moments that happened. So it does seem that at least there is the potential that we can all sort of be tied to this. In going back, I know we got to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but going back to that original dream that you told us about the car accident, you're thinking there's nothing I could have done necessarily to prevent it. Is there a thing that as you experience these, do you just become heightened? Do you just look around and say, I had this dream, I need to be more aware of it?
Oh,
How do
absolutely.
you handle that information?
It's like the last time we spoke, I talked about being a radio. And yes, on that day, I was more tuned in. I was paying more attention than perhaps I would normally be. Again, just as being humans, being made of energy, I feel that we have these insights, or this ESP, or whatever you'd like to call it, as a survival technique. These are tools that we all have. We all have the ability to tune in, and I'm sure we can develop that ability. We can more finally tune it and develop it to be better at it. But we have this for our own survival. You and I were speaking last time a little bit about, when you get goosebumps, you are your best tool to know if there's an entity in the room, if there's something afoot. Just listen to yourself, because you have these resources in your humanness to help give you insight for your own safety and survival.
Yeah.
It's like I think I was talking about a predator. I was on a walk with my son, and all of a sudden, all the hair in the back of my neck stood up. I didn't know what was going on, but as a animal, I was being informed that I was in danger.
Yeah.
And when I looked all around, I realized there was a mountain lion on the other side of the fence that very much was watching my son and I. And so I didn't panic. I wanted to run. I've never felt such an instinct to run, but I knew not to run because that's a cat. I don't want to cause it to chase. Yeah. And there was a fence between us, but I didn't want to test and see how high that cat could jump.
Good idea.
But I took that as, thank you for informing me that I was in danger and that I needed to tune my attention into something. And I feel that with these premonitions, it's the same thing. You're being tuned into something, perhaps being in danger. I mean, a car wreck, of course, is dangerous. Sure. It wasn't even me happening, but I really don't know why I got that little glimpse for something that I couldn't do anything about, but I just chalked it up to being part of the human experience and just being aware there was going to be a disturbance in my vicinity that day.
Right. So maybe just being hyper aware. Again,
being hyper aware.
Some people may call them guardian angels. Some people may call it, clairvoyance, whatever it is. And many skeptics, even just looking at some of this stuff, look at the random number generator and the Global Consciousness Project. A lot of scientists say there's not. It's you're looking for patterns that aren't necessarily there. It just seems to go back to, at the end of the day, if you have faith in something, no amount of evidence is going to refute it. If you are a skeptic, no amount of evidence is going to confirm it. So we're there to interpret it the way that we see. It seems, at least to me. Not the clairvoyant.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Darla, thank you for sharing this really fascinating information. And again, I'm just absolutely blown away by this, this mark of love. I mean, we always say Cupid's arrow. Maybe it's Cupid's Celtic cross. Who knows? But it seems to have worked out well for you and your husband. Well, thank you so much again for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And again, guys, if you want more information on New Mexico Strange, other episodes, make sure that you have KRQE Now downloaded on your Apple TV, your Roku, your Fire Stick. And if you want more information, just head over to krqe.com. Until next time, I'm Chad Brummett. This has been New Mexico Strange.